We are live. Apparently, this is 5 Live Fridays. I am going to be spending some time today. We are, so long as you're going to be here. We're going to be spending some time today with Charles Bukowski. I have with me my 4 collections of Charles Bukowski. Am I live? Is this working? I believe so. Um, so, anyway, I have here my 4 collections of Charles Bukowski. I have 5 poems picked out, and we will. I'm trying to make sure that I'm actually, have to be. So, if you are out there, do not be afraid to say hello. We're here to talk about poetry. There's not enough poetry in the world. There's not enough poetry being discussed in the world. And I think there are more than a few people who would blame that on Charles Bukowski. I disagree with them. I think that Charles Bukowski ultimately made poetry accessible to a whole lot more people. I think that Charles Bukowski is someone who should be credited with the furtherance of poetry, not detracted by taking poetry away from the elevated language that once it used. Again, if you were out there, say hello to me. We will talk about poetry. We are here for some time, and we will start today with the Bluebird. If you are new to the channel, or you have not heard me talk about Charles Bukowski or the Bluebird in the past, the Bluebird is probably my second favorite poem, but maybe it's my first favorite poem. It depends on the day and how bad I feel about myself. Uh, because I Died for Beauty by Emily Dickinson and The Bluebird are sort of the ones that go back and forth. The Bluebird. There's a bluebird in my heart that wants to get out, but I'm too tough for him. I say, stay in there. I'm not going to let anybody see you. There's a bluebird in my heart that wants to get out, but I pour whiskey on him and inhale cigarette smoke. And the whores and the bartenders and the grocery clerks never know that he's in there. There's a bluebird in my heart that wants to get out, but I'm too tough for him. I say, stay down. You want to mess me up? You want to screw up the works? You want to blow my book sales in Europe? There's a bluebird in my heart that wants to get out, but I'm too clever. I only let him out at night sometimes, when everybody's asleep. I say, I know you're in there, so don't be sad. Then I put him back, but he's singing a little in there. I haven't quite let him die, and we sleep together like that, with our secret pact. And it's nice enough to make a man weep, but I don't weep. Do you? This is, in my opinion, the ultimate Charles Bukowski poem. Um, I don't know that there. So this is the Bluebird itself is poetry, right? So we have Bukowski, this nasty guy, this big, burly, overweight, heavy drinker, cigarette and cigar smoker. Um, we have this guy who does write poetry. We have this guy who does have this bluebird inside of him. We have this guy who is telling us outright that hiding the bluebird, hiding the good thing, hiding the beautiful thing inside is what gives him his persona. Do you want to blow my book sales in Europe? I think that this is all of us in some way, shape, form, fashion, facet, or manner. I think that there is good. So one or the other here is true, right? You're either crusty on the outside and soft on the inside, or you're soft on the outside and crusty on the inside. Now, I guess you could be crusty both ways or soft both ways. But normally, this develops in one way or another. If you are perhaps a sensitive individual, you build up this crusty outside because you know that the only way not to get hurt is to be a little bit more alone a little bit longer than others. Pardon me. This is an unfortunate truth, right? How often do you hear the phrase, yeah, he's a good guy, you just got to get to know him? That guy probably fairly soft on the inside, fairly squishy emotionally. That is why you have to build up that dark outside. That is why you have to build up the nastiness to give yourself some layer of defense. Um, this poem, The Bluebird by Charles Bukowski, is one that really brings that home. The secret double life that we all live. If you are one, what would be interesting is to invert this poem, to flip it. What about that individual? What poem does the individual write who is soft on the outside, but really mean and sharp on the inside? Probably no poetry at all, right? That person is too busy out there running around being malicious, being malignant. That person does not write this type of poetry. So the second poem of the 5 live that I have here, so here, I should have said this beforehand. If you own the pleasures of the damned, if you own, you get so alone at times that it just makes sense. If you own that, what just makes sense? Well, if I have to explain it, you'll never understand. If you own the people look like flowers at last, or if you own what matters most is how well you walk through the fire, be sure you have those in your collection. If you were here live, you can request poems from those. Now, probably use the page numbers instead of the titles because it is difficult to find Bukowski poems. The next poem that I have marked out to read here is The Loner. The Loner, page 162 in The Pleasures of the Damned. 16 and 1/2 inch neck, 68 years old, lift weights, body like a young boy, almost. Kept his head shaved and drank port wine from half-gallon jugs. Kept the chain on the doors, windows boarded. You had to give a special knock to get in. He had brass knucks, knives, clubs, guns. He had a chest like a wrestler. Never lost his glasses, never swore, never looked for trouble, never married after the death of his only wife, hated cats, roaches, mice, humans, worked crossword puzzles, kept up with the news. That 16 and 1/2 inch neck, for 68, he was something. All those boards across the windows. Washed his own underwear and socks. My friend Red took me up to meet him one night. We talked a while together, then we left. Red asked, "What do you think?" I answered, "More afraid to die than the rest of us." I haven't seen either of them since. Why do you think our speaker here, Chinaski, or Bukowski, however you want to look at it, maybe it's a different speaker altogether. Why do you think our speaker here has not seen either of them since? Understand why he would not have seen The Loner again. I understand that. If that's not your cup of tea, you're not going to go seeking that individual out. That individual is certainly not going to find you. But why not Red? Why not see your buddy Red again? Well, in my opinion, it's because Red was infatuated, or at least impressed, with the type of individual who becomes that loner. Why would our speaker not be impressed with the type of individual who becomes that loner, spending much time alone, as we know Bukowski's speaker does, it's not because of the loneliness. It's because he is more afraid to die than the rest of us. That is the big takeaway that we have from our speaker not wanting to spend time with that individual. If you are someone who is impressed by someone who is afraid to die, you're this close to doing it, right? It's like all those you see people who make bad decisions. You see people who do stupid things and they do it often. They do it over and over again. And you think to yourself, how do you do that? How do you make that decision? And then you realize, ooh, I don't want to know how you make that decision. Hello, Leo. I don't want to know how you make that decision because that's one step closer to making that decision myself, right? So it is an interesting conundrum. This individual, the loner, right? What a wild type of poem from Bukowski. The next poem that I have lined up. You have any Bukowski requests, Leo? The next poem I have. Yes, Jordan. Next poem I have lined up to read is "How Is Your Heart?" This is from "You Get So Alone at Times That It Just Makes Sense," page 304. During my worst times on the park benches, in the jails, or living with whores, I always had this certain contentment. I wouldn't call it happiness. It was more of an inner balance that settled for whatever was occurring and helped me in the factories and when relationships went wrong with the girls. It helped me through the wars and the hangovers, the back alley fights, the hospitals, to awaken in a cheap room in a strange city and pull up the shade. This was the craziest kind of contentment. And to walk across the floor to an old dresser with a cracked mirror, see myself, ugly, grinning at it all. What matters most is how well you walk through the fire. Thank you, Leo. I appreciate that. I'm here to learn as well. I believe that the how do you say? I think that what this poem really is about, what this is suggesting, what matters most is how well you walk through the fire. To end this poem that way is to suggest there will be fire. That is why we're here. There will be fire. There is perhaps nothing else. There are good things. There are good days for sure. There's peaceful times, niceties in life. But if there is nothing but fire, then what does matter most is how well you deal with that fire. Leo says, I like your text analysis, but it usually ends right when it gets to the good part. Your Spinster's poem review was good, but it ended just when it seemed like it was getting to the climax of the analysis. I think that's the right way to do things, right? Make your point, I think. Or not you, me. My goal is to make the point of the build to a crescendo, perhaps. Make the point of the analysis to get there. And good old Chucky Buck, that's right, Macbeth. To get there, get to the point, and hopefully have built some arguments along the way. Not quite the same way. Not quite. The crescendo is the build. Did I use the word wrong? What do you mean the crescendo is the build? I don't know music terms. So to be fair, Jordan, I may be Completely wrong. Build the crescendo is that how that works? Have I been doing this wrong my entire life? Um, there are ads on the live stream. The I don't know how to control everything with the live stream so far. Um, this is new to me. So if this is something that gets in the way or is aggravating, I apologize. Um, ads on the live stream. What does that mean? That like interrupting the live stream? Yeah, crescendo is the act of increasing. Okay. So what's the end? I've been doing that wrong this entire time? Talking about crescendos wrong my entire life? I feel like such a failure. What was I doing? Where are we going? Leo says, I haven't gotten ads yet, but if there are ads, you can just rewind the live stream and then play the video on 2 times speed to catch up. Maybe they are synonymous, says Macbeth. I don't know. If I screwed that up, I screwed that up, and I apologize. So it's the when you are, maybe this is too inside baseball and no one cares. But when you are beginning an upload or a stream, it does ask you about ads. I thought that was after it was uploaded. So I apologize. I am very new to this. The next poem that I have from Bukowski for our time together, and I have poems on kissing pages here. So I actually have no poems picked when the live is uploaded. There are ads on the playback. No in-video ads from my end. I hope not. I don't know if I'm not saying that Jordan has lied. I'm just saying that I don't know if I am understanding this correctly. I do not have any poems picked from What Matters Most is How Well You Walk Through the Fire. So if you have any from that book, be sure to let me know. Obviously, there is always the question of content when you were talking about Charles Bukowski and how it mixes with YouTube. The next poem, It Was an Underwood. My poems keep renouncing each other. This one says this, and that one says that, and the other one says something else, but I find it humorous as they battle back and forth. Angry featherweights, well, maybe welterweights. And when I walk into a stationery store after all that furious battle, look at the typewriter ribbons, and can't remember the name of the machine. Even my typewriter renounces itself. Pardon me, I squeeze by the girl at the register. They didn't have what I wanted. Then I walk across the way, where they do, and buy 6 of those brews that made Milwaukee famous. This is such a Bukowski thing, right? To say that I am the great poet and I write these poems, and when I run out of ink for my typewriter, not only do I not remember what type of ink it was, not only do I not remember what ribbon it is that I have to buy, but also I don't want any more. I'm just going to go buy some beer. You know, what a Bukowski thing to do. What a Bukowski thing to say. What a Bukowski way to act. The Creation Coffin is that the one I wanted to read? Yeah, I guess so. I don't remember picking this one out. Yeah, let's go with it. The ability to suffer and endure. That's nobility, friend. The ability to suffer and endure for an idea, a feeling, a way. That's art, my friend. The ability to suffer and endure when love fails. That's hell, old friend. The nobility, art, and hell. Let's talk about art for a while. Destiny is my crippled daughter. Look here, it's difficult, me against them, with them. Kafka, let me in. Hemingway, beware Hegel. You're funny. Cervantes, you mean you wrote that novel at the age of 80? Great writers are indecent people. They live unfairly, saving the best part for paper. Good human beings save the world so that bastards like me can keep creating art, become immortal. If you read this after I am long dead, it means I made it. So, writers of the world, it's your turn now to misuse your wife, abuse your children, love thyself, live off the funds of others, dislike all art created before and during your time, and dislike or even hate humanity, singly or in mass. Bastards, if you read this after I am long dead, forget about me. I probably wasn't that good. I probably wasn't that good. If you read this long after I'm gone, here we are, 30 years after Charles Bukowski's death. I believe, 1993, I believe. Macbeth says, part of what appeals to me about Bukowski is that I believe he has actually lived through those shitty jobs and situations, just like actors and authors of past generations. Yeah, Bukowski did not have a particularly charming life. Bukowski, in fact, didn't start writing poetry, I believe, until his mid 30s, maybe. He was certainly old to be starting writing poetry, especially to be remembered as one of the greats for writing that poetry. Um, but he did go through a whole lot of bad life, and if you any of his biography will tell you he was kind of doing some of the bad in life too. He had a rough childhood. I believe the poem My Old Man is autobiographical. He had, I believe he had an abusive father. Um, are there any good poems that you have written? Me? Good poems? No. Written a lot of poems. None of them have been particularly promising or good. Bukowski, the poem My Old Man talks about coming home from school one day. I don't think it's in either of any of the four Bukowski collections that I have in front of me, but the Bukowski poem My Old Man talks about coming home from school and his mom is in the yard hiding behind a tree, and a lot of his stuff is in the front yard. And his mother tells him, "Look, don't go in. Don't go inside." He says, "What do you mean, don't go inside?" He said, "Your father has found your writing and he's angry." He says, "I don't care. I'll beat him up. What's it to me? I'll beat him up." And the poem ends with the father figure coming to our speaker later and asking him about one of his stories and saying that he really liked it. So Bukowski definitely had a bit of a rough go when he was alive and became sort of a rough guy as a result. You don't write this type of poem probably without being a bit of a rough guy. But yeah, what is the place of Charles Bukowski in the world of poetry? If you have if you have questions or anything, I'm done with the readings sort of right now. I might go back to reading in a bit, but be sure to leave them in the comments and we will talk about those things live. We'll do it live. But what was I saying? What is Bukowski's place in the world of poetry? Speaking of my own poems. So when I was in college, there were poetry nights put on by one of the local. She was a part-time professor at the college. She was one of the big shiny students that had been there. She was proclaimed to be, oh, this is our great writer from the program, and she would put on poetry nights at a bar. And I, bars, not necessarily my thing. Being around people, not necessarily my thing. And I would go anyway. Poetry is my thing, and I was a writer. And I remember, I will never forget this. I will never, never, never forget this because it meant a lot to me. So this was in a bar, and one of the things that um, Chuck Palahniuk says is that when he was in his writers groups, they used to go to bars and do open mic nights, things like that. Because look, a bar is hostile. If you can read your writing and these things which are precious to you in a bar, you can do it anywhere. If you can read your poetry in a bar and remain a poet at the end of that night, you're a poet. You can do it. I remember I did not fit in very well with any of these other poets. I was not writing the same type of poetry. I was not writing the same type of stuff at all. And I would get up there and I would read my stuff. And you'd fight with someone, Jordan. There were not many fights to be had, but we could go. We could go. I remember 3, 4 poetry nights in. I got up and did my stuff. Everybody else did their stuff. And then the bartender was the bar owner. He came up to me and, he was always there in the background. It was at a bar. And he told me he really liked my stuff. And there were professors that were there. There were other students that were there. There were alumni that were there. None of them ever really so much as approached me after the readings. And that didn't surprise me, right? I was never meant to be one of the individuals who went to college, period, who went to college in the first place. I was never meant to be of that ilk. So going to college, going to these open mic nights at a bar, and having someone approach me and say that he always enjoyed my stuff, but was obviously not a poetry guy. That meant a lot to me. That is what I believe the role of Bukowski writ large is in poetry. That is what I believe the role of Bukowski in the world of literature really is. Just because someone is not a poetry person does not mean that they do not have poetry inside them. Just because someone is not a poetry reader does not mean they cannot be, they will not be, that there is no poetry to be had for them. Just because someone is not currently a poetry reader only means that they have not found the poet for them. In the same way that people say, I don't like movies. Well, of course you do like movies. You haven't found the movies that are good for you. You haven't found the movies, the directors, the writers that have spoken to you. Someone says, I don't like music. Yes, you do. Part of the human experience is to like music. You have not found the music for you. I believe this is the same way with poetry. There is a poet for everyone. There is poetry for everyone. This is why, in my opinion, one of the big reasons why, in my opinion, the world of gatekeepers is so damaging. What gatekeeper today would publish Charles Bukowski's poetry? What gatekeeper today would be all right with the stuff we find inside a Bukowski collection? What gatekeeper today would allow Bukowski to exist, to thrive? What gatekeeper today would publish Charles Bukowski's stuff? Because of this, we are slowly losing literature. I say slowly. It is going very fast, but we are slowly losing literature in the way that it cannot be reclaimed. Jordan says the Hubs wrote a poem, and he's no poet, depending on your definition of a poet. And it goes as such: roses are red, jewelry is gold. Okay, well, we're gonna skip the rest of that one, Jordan. I appreciate you. We're gonna skip the rest of that poem, but this is how we are slowly losing literature, piece by piece, bit by bit, not to regain access. Because here's the thing: once it goes, it can be gone. I firmly believe that. There's not a whole lot of money in printing anyway. There's not a whole lot of money in distribution anyhow. And the experience of literature on a screen, I understand that some people really enjoy their, what is it called? Kindle? Really enjoy their Kindle, etc. Then, okay, you can have that. It's not the same as turning the pages in a book. I understand that there are ways to annotate a Kindle. It's not the same process. It's not the same thing. Once literature is defined as a certain thing for a certain type, it's all gone. It's done. So this, I didn't want to get into this part of it, right? I didn't want to get into these arguments here. Yeah, but we'll do it. The word diversity, what does that mean? The word diversity. We're told, we're shown that it means a certain thing, but it does not mean diversity of thought. Now, I'm all for, hey, I like writing from all sorts of people. Diversity of thought is a very important thing. Do you find annotations helpful? Do you do it even when not reading for the channel? I've always done it, Macbeth. I think that annotating is one of the best things about reading. That is how we make literature our own, I think. Otherwise, your thoughts are very fleeting, right? You are cruising through the work. So one of the best experiences in literature is to read a book that you had read and had annotated, and all of a sudden you're reading it again later as a completely different person. The notes that you had left in the book, very different than the things that strike you now. One of the fun things to do if you are an annotator is to read the book multiple times with a different colored pen each time. That way you can see the difference between the different yous who have read the book. Leo says, hearing about the Library of Alexandria in my head just opens up a barrier of creativity that was closed. Don't talk about the Library of Alexandria. Still makes me sad. Who knows what was in there? Who knows what was in there? And it was a library. If it hadn't gone in a fire, it is likely that it would have simply gone into disrepair as the ages went on, only to be found, discovered, and saved at a later date, right? The Library of Alexandria is one of, in my opinion, the sorest subjects in all of civilization. But what else could we have had? What else could we have had that we don't now? And it's not like today, a library burns down today. There are so many existences of those books, right? Leo then goes on to say, diversity doesn't mean anything. In my perspective, diversity means get people of color to do the same things that white people do, like Barack Obama or Clarence Thomas and Amy Coney Barrett as a woman. So this is where I was getting, right? Diversity, in my opinion, is very important, but it's not the same diversity that we hear about. Diversity of thought, right? I don't understand where things are going, that diversity is being seen as that which we see. My entire life, we were told that diversity is color should be invisible, right? That was what and now it's the most important thing. I don't know how to conceptualize this. I don't know what to do with this. The gatekeepers that we have today all filtrated through the same college experience. The same college experience which stamped them in to thinking the same way. Thinking the same way is a disastrous way to gain actual diversity of thought, to gain actual different opinions, to gain with today's gatekeepers, we wouldn't have Charles Bukowski. With the gatekeepers of the past, we did not have Emily Dickinson, right? I'm not arguing for that gatekeeping either. Emily Dickinson is, in my opinion, the greatest poet of all time. She was a woman, so it didn't matter, right? I'm not arguing for that type of gatekeeping either. Macbeth chimes in, I haven't gotten around to rereading books yet. Too many still left on my TBR list unread. But that is a strong argument for annotations. I would implore you, Macbeth, choose your favorite book. Whatever your favorite book is. Now, here's the painful part. Here's the painful part. I'm telling you to choose your favorite book and reread it. Go back and reread that favorite book that you had picked. It will not be the same. What you have done in your mind is blown it up to mythic proportions. But does the book that exists in your mind differ from the book that exists on the page meaningfully enough for it to be a worse experience? If you pick, are you ready to reread American Psycho? I am. I've read American Psycho, I think, 3 times now. It's a wild experience every time. It's one of those books that it does change every time you read it, but in my opinion, the stuff that changes every time you read it is the stuff that exists around the periphery of the novel. But choose your favorite book, Macbeth. Go back, reread that favorite book, reread it and annotate it, I guess, for the first time, if you were not annotating it the first time. If you are still here, Macbeth, let me know, what is your favorite book. If I have read it, we will have a discussion about how this will go. Leo says, just be creative. How do you know there isn't a book in the Library of Alexandria that had you written inside it as the main character, but the book was from the future, aka our time? Well, Leo, I implore you, if it was from the future, if that person was from the future that had me written in the book, they would know to save that book from the Library of Alexandria. Okay? Unless you're talking about a time traveler that was not a history student. Jordan says, American Psycho is my favorite book too, you know. It's not my favorite book. My favorite book might be Fight Club. American Psycho's top 3 for me. Honestly, another book which might be top 3, San Miguel by T.C. Boyle. This is an incredibly good book. Um, Look, I say it's your favorite book. Okay, Jordan, it's my favorite book. We'll read it again sometime. San Miguel by T.C. Boyle is a book that I don't know if I've ever heard anyone else talk about. Definitely worth reading. I will try to if you can't find it, I will try to leave a link in the description that will be one of the if you do click it, I would get some commission on it. But I might be able to find it through those types of vendors. I'm not sure that I will be. Um, Macbeth says that's a tough one. I get it down to top 3. Let me know the top 3. Oh, there we go. Let me see. I am a little bit behind the comments. I apologize. Jordan says I bought that years ago because you said it's your favorite San Miguel. I've only read The Tortilla Curtain. So, as far as novels from T.C. Boyle are concerned, that's the only novel I've ever read. You'll have to let me know how The Tortilla Curtain was, Jordan. Uh, T.C. Boyle, very weird kind of guy. T.C. Boyle, unfortunately, seems to have been, it was lazy. Yeah, so that's the thing with T.C. Boyle. Sometimes T.C. Boyle is extremely good. Sometimes TC Boyle is not. So, and again, every writer is going to be that way for somebody sometimes. Macbeth says, I guess it would be Slaughterhouse 5, East of Eden, and probably 1984. Slaughterhouse 5 is a perfect example of a book that will be different each time you read. When was the last time you read Slaughterhouse 5, Macbeth? For me, I read it as my first experience with what is his name? Kurt Vonnegut. That was my first experience with Kurt Vonnegut with Slaughterhouse 5. And so over 10 years ago, yes, Slaughterhouse 5 is a short book, so it will be easy to get through quickly. If it was your first experience with Kurt Vonnegut as well, then it will be obvious to you that you are a different person than you were the first time you read it. The Kurt Vonnegut, I loved Kurt Vonnegut when I first found him. Kurt Vonnegut is a writer that, in my opinion, might deteriorate with further reading. I think it depends a lot on your sentiment. I think it depends a lot on what it is for which you go to writing. Kurt Vonnegut's writing is all very oopsie daisy, and I don't mean that he's oopsing himself into story or plot lines or characters, but the way he presents his writing is very oopsie. Oh, everything went wrong. Who knew? Right? That sort of thing. They are quick. They are amusing. That Kurt Vonnegut, very quick, very amusing. You are absolutely right, Macbeth. The way that I used to cherish Kurt Vonnegut, I now cherish Charles Bukowski. Very quick, very easy to get through. There's not going to be a whole lot. The moralizing. So, okay, this is weird. This is weird now that I'm rethinking it. The moralizing in Kurt Vonnegut is heavier, but I did not pick up on it at the time. The moralizing is heavier, but it is immediately undercut. I don't read unless the audiobook plays in the back as I read and follow along. The only book I've ever actually tried to read is 50 Shades of Grey. Personally, I love reading stories heavy on. So inside baseball, I had planned this year to do 50 Shades of Grey. I don't think I'm going to get around to it. It might be a next year thing. I wanted to do Game of Thrones as well. The thing with 50 Shades of Grey is I cannot do this straight up, right? If I do 50 Shades of Grey, I have to do something quirky with it. I don't have the time right now to do quirky. Um, what quirky means, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I'll get a leather harness, do it in that. Um, I do want to get around to doing 50 Shades of Grey on the channel. I want to do it a read along series. I want to do it. I don't know how long the chapters are. I don't know how many chapters there are in the book. That might be a 3-chapter at a time thing, calling back to the Harry Potter series. Not actually a callback to the Harry Potter series, but the Harry Potter series was 3 chapters at a time. So maybe that is what I will do next year. Game of Thrones, I don't think you should do 50 Shades. A leather harness sounds hot, though. If I do 50 Shades, it'll be in a leather harness or something. It will not be a straight up presentation. So something quirky will be on the way if I go the route of 50 Shades of Grey. I want to revolutionize the way literature is discussed on the internet. That's me, the guy who did 50 Shades of Grey read along. LOL. Don't crush my dreams, Macbeth. Don't. So here, okay, great. Make fun of me for that. Make fun of me in that way. Here's the important thing. You are wrong. I'm right because hear me out. We're here reading Charles Bukowski, right? We're here reading someone who stands in the face of the gatekeepers. We're here reading someone who I am arguing every time I read him is literature. You see where this is going? In order to make a series of 50 Shades of Grey, I would be arguing for the literary quality of 50 Shades of Grey. 50 Shades of Grey almost undoubtedly was an entry point to literature for what? Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of individuals reading for the first time, probably after a long reading drought. I think a series for 50 Shades of Grey would be a great service to the literary community. Take that, Macbeth. Better, I dare say, than Shakespeare. How's that, Macbeth? Leo says 50 Shades better than any version of any Bible. Yeah, we will get the chance to go over this in the 50 Shades of Grey series that I am now dedicated to doing at some point. I will do that 50 Shades of Grey series at some point. I have to now. I got to lose 20 pounds. That's where we're at now. If I get down to 195, we'll be there. It appears that my stream is lagging a bit, so I apologize if I am late to any comments, any questions, any concerns about the lovely world of literature, concerns about the gatekeepers that I argue against any point I get the time to argue against them. What else are we doing, guys? If you wait until you're ready, it'll never happen. A 50 Shades of Grey series? I'll never be ready for that. And I'll never be ready for a feminine partner. No girls allowed. So, what are we talking about, guys? I've read 5 poems from Charles Bukowski. We've had a few moments of discussion. We've talked about I'm a lady. Okay. It's a sausage party only, Jordan. Define lady. What is it? Are you attaching social status to the word lady? I had a friend from China, and I would always call her a lady, and she'd get mad at me because the translation, I guess, from lady makes it sound like she's an old woman. So she would get mad at me and say, "I'm no lady." But the funny part is, in English, to say "I'm no lady" means other things about you, right? What an interesting quirk of translating and retranslating. Owns land in a colonized country. That's a lady. Luck be a lady tonight. I have a brand of a weenie on my arm. Does that count? Jordan, I have no idea what that means. I have no idea. You have Oscar Mayer tattooed on your arm? Is that what you're saying? I have no idea what that sentence means. And the follow-up question makes that first sentence make even less sense. I have no idea what's happening. In my own chat, I have no idea what's happening. This is how new I am to streaming. I almost said comments, my own comments. But this is a chat for chattel. Next poem, LOL. All right. All right. We'll find one. It's difficult with Bukowski to find poems live, to find poems on the move, because Bukowski has so many things that you can't talk about on YouTube. The birds. The acute and terrible air hangs with murder as summer birds mingle in the branches and warble and mystify the clamor of the mind. An old parrot who never talks sits thinking in a Chinese laundry, disgruntled, forsaken, celibate. There is red on his wing where there should be green, and between us the recognition of an immense and wasted life. My second wife left me because I set our birds free, one yellow with crippled wing quickly going down and to the left, cat meat, cackling like an organ, and the other mean green, of empty thimble head, popping up like a rocket high into the hollow sky, disappearing like sour love and yesterday's desire, and leaving me forever. And when my wife returned that night with her bags and plans, her tricks and shining greeds, she found me glittering over a yellow feather, seeking out the music which she, oddly, failed to hear. Anything can be discussed on YouTube using proper language. Anything can be said. Probably hard to find that going at live speed, Azazel. Jordan says, I'm too busy to read anything with you right now anyway. Yeah. I have done 330-ish consecutive days of videos here. I'm wearing down a little bit, guys. The old bank is going dry, going empty. It's hard to what I try not to bring to. So I've watched a lot of people on YouTube that do daily stuff, and you have, just like television shows, you have your dailies, right? It's difficult to find people who do daily stuff and don't talk about the same stuff every day. What I mean by that is, if they are, for example, a channel that talks about the news, they bring their own stuff and transpose it onto the news every day, and it's the same ideas, etc. There's the meme, right? The meme. What is the meme? Tim Pool and the Civil War, right? He wants to talk about the Civil War with every article he talks about, right? I I try not to do that because I know how aggravating that must be for an audience. So trying to read something every day and find things to talk about that is pertinent to the literature itself and not bring personal experiences in, if those personal experiences are not tantamount to what that literature says, is difficult. So what was I talking about? Oh, so the prospect of more read-alongs is difficult for me right now. I am struggling to do The Great Gatsby. I want to start next month Carrie because Carrie will turn 50 next month. The book by Stephen King. There's a few Stephen Kings I still want to do on the channel. I want to do Carrie. I want to do It. I want to do The Stand, which I have never read, and I want to do Christine, just because of what those stories are. And then I think I'll be done with Stephen King unless he comes out with a banger. But Carrie turns 50, so I have to start that next month. And next month is National Poetry Month. So having National Poetry Month and a poetry discussion every day is very, very important to me. This will be, I believe, the 4th consecutive year that I do that. So it's, man, Macbeth says, what are your thoughts on analysis of literature leading to interpretations that were never considered or intended by the author? Are those valid or something of a vapid practice? I think, Macbeth, that is the only valid practice. I know that is an unpopular opinion, and it draws no shortage of ire on YouTube, or I imagine any discussion of literature which takes place publicly. But here's the thing. I don't care why a writer wrote something. I don't care what a writer meant by X, Y, and Z. What I care about, and this is the school of criticism known as, I believe this is new criticism. All that exists to literature, all that exists to a piece of writing is what's in that writing. If that author is listening to and writing a response to Master of Puppets by Metallica, if an entire novel is a response to Master of Puppets by Metallica, I don't care. I don't care because A, Master of Puppets doesn't have to mean anything to me for that novel to mean something to me. Master of Puppets is something I may never have heard. But if I like that novel, baby, yeah, it does mean something to me, and I can tell you what that novel means to me. Literary analysis, literary interpretation, in my opinion, has nothing to do with the author. The author is dead the moment I start reading it, most of the time, right? So I believe that there is something to be taken from biographical criticism. Sure. If I want to say these Bukowski poems, I'm grafting them onto Bukowski's life, the poem can still mean something to me. But really, the only thing that matters is what that poem means to me and why I then feel compelled to give it a literary analysis. Why I want to analyze it at the end of reading it. I don't care why an author wrote. This is also why I don't have to like a writer to enjoy his or her work. This is why I don't have to like, appreciate, or support. Even, I mean, go down the line. You know how many musicians I probably could not stand? How many actors that I don't want to listen to this guy, but if he's in a character, okay. Do you know how many um, poets would be absolutely horrible to spend time with? But by God, I love their work. I believe that nothing that the author intended to be in that work matters. I don't care. If I did, that would be supporting. So for me, that is tantamount to, that is the same thing as propaganda. Art, in my opinion, the way that I define it, is art is that which is to be interpreted. If I care too much about what Ernest Hemingway meant by a certain short story, that's the death of the piece, as far as I'm concerned. That is the death of what that piece could mean to me. The moment you care about what the author, you can care about what the author put into the work. You can care about it all you want. The minute you say that's all the work means is the minute that you are supporting propaganda. With propaganda, The message is inherent to the work. The author's intent is inherent to the work. That is not so with art. Art is divorced from the creator. For a live stream, your stats are desirable. There are 8 viewers and such at the moment with matching likes on the stream, which is good. If you're here, hit the like button or I will find you. That's not true. It's an empty thread. I'm not going to find anybody. Which is good. The people who are here are as passionate as you, Adrian, about reading. Hopefully, I don't know why anyone would be on this channel without a passion for literature. I don't do a whole lot, guys. I mean, that's all that we do here. Azazel says, time zones do not help, though. It's night now where I live, and I just stumbled upon this live video, even though I love Strip Cover Lit and try to follow. I appreciate you, Azazel. I work overnights. So what time works good for you, Azazel? It is currently 1 p.m. where I am, which is kind of like 1 a.m. for me. So I am open to doing 3 a.m. live streams, 3 a.m. where I am. So I'm not against it. One thing that is interesting to me, is looking at the stats for this channel. I'm just a guy from Kansas City, Missouri. I spent my college years in St. Joe, spent my college years in St. Louis. St. Charles, technically. People from St. Louis will tell you, no, you didn't. If you say that you were in St. Louis when you lived in St. Charles, fair enough. But God, this is worldwide. The sheer panic that washes over you when you realize there are people in India who are watching your videos, right? Not panic because they're in India, but like that is the entire world. That is the entire. There's people in Japan who watch these videos. There are people in all corners of the world except for Russia and China, which I have learned, that watch these. Is wild to think about. Jordan is in Michigan. Go Lions. They didn't go all the way. Kansas City boys did. People who like musical. People who hold on. Where am I? Yeah, Azazel, let me know what would work for you, and I am open to or what country you're in, and I'll try to figure out what's going on there. People who like the musical Carrie may probably find themselves here. There is a musical, Carrie. There's a musical of the book by Stephen King, Carrie. I had no idea. Sounds like a weekly reader topic. Wink, wink. Which one? I kind of stopped doing the weekly reader. It was it was too hard to think of topics on a weekly basis for something like that. I'm in the process of maybe sort of replacing them with the live streams. This is going fairly well for me. We will see, I guess. Azazel says, is your analysis different if you know nothing about the author? It almost has to be. Your analysis, I believe, almost has to be different if you know nothing about the author. And that is why. So if you know nothing about the author, right, what can you base your analysis on? On what can you base your analysis? Only the text. Only the text and what you have up here. In my opinion, that's the way literature should be. At least the primary function of literature should be. In my opinion, knowing nothing about the author is kind of helpful because so here's one of the great big things that you can pick up on if you know nothing about the author. Possibly, probably, more than likely, whatever author you're reading has some personal bias about things, right? That's one of the things that makes literature interesting to fall into, to read, etc., is the small things that you can tell the authors like, dislike, etc. And hopefully they are cognizant enough to filter these things through the characters, right? But if you know too much about the author, it is possible to just take their biases in tow and just accept them in the literature. When you know nothing about the author and you are looking at the piece, when you know nothing about the author and you are reading it, reading along, you pick up on those small things that for the most part are different than you, right? When you read an author that you with whom you agree too terribly much, it's difficult to really notice where their biases are. What it is that they're saying that might not be quite right, but is right to them. Not knowing anything about the author allows you zero insight to what that author really does and does not mean. So one of the stories that does a really good job of making you be a close reader is The Short Happy Life of Francis Macomber. There's a video about it on the channel from pretty recently. Not saying, just saying. The Short Happy Life of Francis Macomber has people saying things that they obviously do not mean, right? The wife is cucking her husband with the guy leading the expedition. And they have to just have this forced conversation that, if you're not reading closely, seems like just a stupid conversation to have. But when you're reading closely, you understand the intent behind it. Now, why do I bring this up in this conversation? Why do I bring this up talking about a writer's biases and how you read against them, right? If you didn't know the rest of that story that was going on, you spend time with Francis Macomber and his wife away from, I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who's leading the expedition. You spend time with the guy leading the expedition away from Francis Macomber and or his wife. You have that insight to them. So you know when they are and are not meaning things. When you don't have that insight to an author, you have to really be on while you are reading in order to differentiate, right? You can't just accept, oh yeah, he means this, right? You have to make those decisions for yourself. Leo says, like watching movies, I think when you read, you're reading yourself reflected back to you. The same way when you watch a movie, you see yourself reflected back to you. Exactly. Oh, yeah, that's where I was. Yeah, that's a very good point, Leo. That is exactly what is happening when you read literature. That's exactly why, by the way, annotating literature is such a big deal. How do you know how do you really remember what experience you had the last time you read a book if you don't annotate it? Annotate it. You own it. You bought it. Right in the margins. Write about it. Highlight it, mark it up, all of that. Jordan says, I like to threaten people too. Hooray! Jordan says, oh, you took it back. You're not threatening anyone. Boo. Jordan says, oh, yeah, I read that one. Jordan says, I'll show you all the way. Maybe. But you won't show me Super Bowl rings. The Chiefs have 4. This Chiefs iteration has 3. Leo says, imagine 1,000 years from now, someone researching these authors and they come across your YouTube videos. No pressure. No pressure at all. I'll talk crap on all these authors. The prospect, this is something that I have thought about, though. Not that they find me, but finding what authors will live 1,000 years from now. What authors will live 1,000 years from now? I can't. Azazel says I can't write on my books. They are too sacred. Sacred, Azazel. They're not sacred. They are tools. Literature is books are tools. Literature is a tool to make you a more complete human being. What you're doing is you're buying a ratchet set and you're nailing it to the wall like a painting. Bop, bop, bop. You're putting it on the wall. How can you really appreciate the literature if you don't mark it up, if you don't highlight it, if you don't put little scribbles on the pages? Sacred, sacred. That is a painful, very painful idea for me, to hold literature as sacred, as untouchable, to hold literature as that which cannot be sullied. Literature is the sully. Jordan says, hey, did you watch Antichrist yet? The Lars Van Trier movie. Can't annotate on films, unfortunately. I haven't watched a movie in so long. So the last movie I saw in the theaters was Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2 was the last movie that I saw in theaters. Now, I don't remember the last movie I saw not in theaters. The last movie that I would have seen on my computer here. Use sticky notes. No, Azazel. Don't use sticky notes. But okay, if your books are too, I have a folder on my PC with snaps of the quotes I liked or fell for. Okay, if your books are too sacred, I don't understand it. I can sympathize with it. I can't empathize. What's your favorite book, Azazel? Let me know in the comments what your favorite book is. We just had this conversation with Macbeth. Pretend your books are too sacred. I say pretend. I shouldn't have said that. That's disrespectful. I will accept that your books are too sacred to mark in. Buy a second copy. I am telling you, I am imploring you, I am guaranteeing you that having a copy of a book to mark up, maybe I'm being stricken for saying this about sacred texts. Having a copy of a book to mark up will make the experience better for you. Speaking of marking books up and sacred texts, pardon me, I am not the religious type, right? I had a girlfriend at one point who was very much so the religious type. The religious types mark up their Bible. If someone believes that the Bible is the sacred word of God and is very spiritually connected to that text and is still able to say, yeah, I got to highlight this one. What, oh, what does that say about you and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone? Or whatever your favorite book is. I'm not making fun of you. I'm not here to make fun of anyone, but I probably will anyway. Make fun of me. That's fine. I don't care. I got thick skin. I'm tough on the outside. Where are we? I feel like the Fight Club and American Psycho film adaptations were too good. And when I read the books, pardon me, I don't know what's happening right now. When I read the books, a lot of the best parts had lost some of the impact that they would have gotten without the movie. Fight Club and American Psycho are very interesting examples because they are, in my opinion, really, in my experience, the only two movies that are, maybe Jurassic Park. The only three movies, I guess, Jurassic Park, American Psycho, and Fight Club, that are really on par with the books and in many ways better than the books. I will say I do like the book Fight Club better than the movie, but the movie Fight Club does the things that movies do as good as the book does the things that books do. It is, those examples are some of the few that you'll get, Macbeth, that I think you would be correct at with that experience. But I I feel like Fight Club and American Psycho are good film adaptations were too good. I disagree with the too good part. I think that one thing that's important. So Fight Club's an interesting situation too, though, because Fight Club, you're looking at a psychopath. So how are we to really get in the head of the psychopath and appreciate that more from a book than a movie, right? Okay, so you've picked some good examples. I'll give you that, but saying that they are too good, I think, is a misnomer. Maybe this is one thing that I tried blaming myself for very hard with Fight Club. Maybe I'm not good enough a reader. What I will say is that it is possibly it's not easier to make a movie than to write a book. I understand that. Um, but what you're doing is you have more given to you as the audience member. Having more given to you, gifted to you by the movie makers is um, having more given to you by the movie makers makes the entire process easy to you, or not easy, easier than the novel reading experience. This makes the movie watching experience able to go deeper for you on a psychological level because so here's what I should be saying. Maybe on the first read, Fight Club and American Psycho, probably Jurassic Park as well, are better the movies are too good. Go back and reread the novels because some of the legwork has been done for you in that first reading and you're able to dig deeper in the novel. That is what I will say. Jordan says, "Well, I sent you $20 like 4 years ago to watch it on Amazon. I apologize. I do apologize. I can refund the $20 if that's what you want. Watch it on Amazon. You can watch movies on Amazon. How do you watch movies on Amazon? I've bought jeans on Amazon. How do you watch movies on someone? Jordan says, "I want you to watch this." Okay, I'll try. I'll try. Leo says Prime question mark Amazon question mark is so um Prime. Is that where you get the stuff shipped for free? Or else, Jordan. Okay, Jordan, calm down. I apologize. Um, they mean Amazon Prime. That's where you get stuff for free. Will they ship me the movie for free? I have nowhere to watch it anyway. My computer does not have a drive, a disk drive. What am I saying here? Prime TV is a streaming service. Everything's a streaming service. This is ridiculous. How am I supposed to keep track of this? How am I supposed to know this? Nope, you need a subscription. I don't need subscriptions. What was I saying? Jordan, is the movie available on YouTube? I have a way to pay YouTube to watch movies. Can I watch that one on YouTube? Leo, going back up, Leo says, "Are you going to watch Deadpool 3? Because Deadpool 1 felt better than Deadpool 2. I agree that Deadpool 1 was better than Deadpool 2. Um, I will watch Deadpool 3 likely. I have no one to go to the movies with anymore. I have I have I have worked overnight for I have worked overnight too long and exhausted my well of individuals. I have no one to go see movies with. So probably not. Probably I will never see a movie again. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm telling you. I'll probably never see another movie. 2019 I saw was it 2019 2018? 2019 I saw 3 movies in the theater. That was I think a personal record. I will probably never see another movie. Where am I? Azazel says, so I have to mark the copy of The Last Temptation with pens and highlighters. That's painful. Do it anyway, Azazel. Your homework, mark up books. Leo says, I rather annotate Harry Potter, but only to use it against J.K. Rowling being transphobic. I was making these arguments years ago, guys. Years ago, that J.K. Rowling was a terrible example, a terrible role model. Jordan says, I'm about to fight you now. Films are my precious. I'll never see another movie, Jordan. How's that? Does that make you happy? Leo says, Polyjuice Potion can be seen as very pro-trans Horcrux. Very, very pro-trans. Polyjuice Potion. Polyjuice Potion was a Horcrux? I don't remember that part of the story. I'm sorry. Mandy Boy says, hi, Adrian. Do you have the time to check this short story draft? I don't do any proofreading anymore. It is too difficult for me to get things back to people in a timely manner, in a timely fashion. So I just don't do any of it anymore. I am sorry. Jordan says, Bateman isn't a psychopath. He's severely depressed. Come at me. American Depressed does not make for a very compelling title. I don't know. I would love to hear what it is that you are. I would love to see how you are classifying depression over psychopathy in the way that someone just callously murders and does not understand human emotion. Suddenly I feel seen. Jordan says, I want you to watch the movie. All right, I'll figure it out. Mandy Boy says they mean Amazon Prime to watch the stream. Prime TV is the streaming service. Oh, yeah, I've been here. Need a subscription? Email me. A movie? I don't know if that would work. I also hate subscription services and don't have Prime. I had Disney Plus briefly. I had Disney Plus. See you, Jordan. Got work to do. American Psycho in the title of American Psycho is there for a reason also. You said yourself the book is a dream. Ta-ta for now. See you, Jordan. Where was I? Where am I? I'm lost. Been doing this for too long. I feel old. I'd like to watch you watch Deadpool with my husband. That's a weird comment, Jordan. I don't know what that means. Guy, if I were Holden from The Catcher in the Rye, what books would you suggest me to read, or probably movies? I've seen Good Will Hunting and Dead Poet Society. Love them. So what is it, Mandy, that makes Holden the important part of that question? I don't know what you mean by that part. I can suggest books all day long. Is there something particular to Holden from Catcher in the Rye that would change those books that I suggest? I'm genuinely asking. I would love to answer your question about suggesting books. I will never see another movie that felt super violent. Oh, it can be. I will never see another movie. Never, ever. Movies are done. Talk about gatekeepers. Done, gone, past. Past tense. Leo says, with Polyjuice, you can change your physical self. It offers a good start to the conversation of spirit and gender identity. Are you still a man if you polyjuice yourself to be a female? Well, now we're talking about the physics of magic. How does magic work? So here's the thing I don't like about Harry Potter. The magic has no weight. Oftentimes, with magic, magics, what you're doing is you are bargaining things into this reality from another reality. Because you are not bargaining things into this reality from another reality, the magic has no weight, the magic has no consequence, the magic just exists, just pops into existence. The magic, therefore, there's no real struggle with the magic. There's no real decision-making process which has to accompany there's no real decision-making process which has to accompany the use of a spell, etc. You just get to do it because it's not really all that taxing to you. If you really had to think, so one theory of magic is that when you make an object float, levitatio, Levinish laboratory, whatever it is that the spell is to make something levitate. One theory of magic, form of magic, type of magic, etc., is that when you make that thing levitate, it's because you have control over spirits in another realm. Okay? When you have experience or authority over spirits in another realm, you have control over them. When you make that thing levitate, it's not really levitating. Those spirits from the other realm are coming together and heaving that thing up. That's what the levitation is. We don't get that. Not that the mechanic of magic in Harry Potter has to follow that argument. But if there was an actual theory of magic or an argument for it, it would be more interesting, would it not? If all of the magic that you had was controlling spirits from another realm, there would be higher consequences if your spells went wrong. There would be actual ethics to consider when you were doing something. Is it ethical to, or maybe not spirits from another realm, maybe they are the dead in our realm. Then how do you get more powerful with magic? Do you have to kill more people? Do you have to sway more spirits of dead from other places? If a spirit of the dead is serving me in my magic, and I am more powerful with magic than you, does that mean that your dead people, your spirits, are fewer than mine? And what if I win over a couple of what if you win over a couple of mine? Do I become weaker at magic while you become stronger? Is there a certain amount of magic to be had in the universe that would correlate with the dead in that mechanic of magic? We don't really get that from Harry Potter. So none of the magic has weight. None of the magic has consequence. The magic can be learned and used, and just it is what it is. I don't know why I went on that long diatribe about magic in Harry Potter. That went really deep. That is juicy. That is good. It is an interesting way to think about magic, isn't it? I believe so. I believe that is the mechanic of something like that makes it more interesting, not less. This is sort of why stuff was, when you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe, early in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it was more interesting than later. Why? Because all of the powers were explained in the way that they were used. Now, there are just people with nebulous green plasmoid powers that happen about their hands, and they can shoot that plasma out. That is a super uninteresting way to go about things, right? It feels super generic. But going way back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, when Tony Stark took shrapnel to the chest and had to create this little magnet slash power source to keep himself alive. That magnet slash power source was able to power a suit, right? That is akin to the mechanics of the magic that would be interesting in something like Harry Potter. Mandy says, I relate to Holden deeply and would consider him and Bukowski my soul friends or something. I mean, I have an interesting past like them, and hence the comment. I am not sure if I worded it correctly. So if you're just asking for books to read, I can give you if that's the framing of the question, if that is the grammar of the question, um, books comparable to Catcher in the Rye, books comparable to the coming of age trope. There are tons of books that I can suggest. If you like Charles Bukowski, I would recommend the novels of Chuck Palahniuk. I think Fight Club would be a great place to pick up a novel that might end up meaning something to you. If you are looking for the aloof nature of Holden, then if you were looking for that type of if you enjoy that type of narrative, one author that we talked about, you've read everything from Chucky. Dang, I thought I was getting onto something. If you enjoy the sort of aloof nature of Holden, one author that we talked about earlier in this stream was Kurt Vonnegut. You might enjoy the narration from a Kurt Vonnegut type novel. If you enjoy coming of age, ironically, we talked about this earlier. San Miguel by T.C. Boyle. It is a story not of a coming of age individual, but maybe of three coming of age individuals, and also kind of the coming of age of an island. Like the island itself plays a character in this book, and super interesting. Super interesting. So there is that as well. If you are looking for other coming of age novels, I'm not real big on the coming of age thing. There's probably someone else who could answer that question better for you than me. Um, um, I do not have it, but Now is the Hour by Tom Spanbauer. This is The Man Who Fell in Love with the Moon. This is a book that I have not read, but Now is the Hour by Tom Spanbauer is one that would be worth reading, looking into as well. Now is the Hour. So Tom Spanbauer is the guy who Chuck Palahniuk says taught him how to write. Now is the Hour is an incredibly unique book. Now is the Hour. Man, I wish I don't know where I've got that book. I don't know if I gave that book away to someone. I don't know where that book is, but it is definitely worth reading. Both if you enjoy coming of age and if you enjoy Chuck Palahniuk. It is not a Chuck Palahniuk novel, but it is Now is the Hour is definitely as unique. The narration feels as unique as Palahniuk does. Leo says, I have a free ticket, so I'll be seeing Deadpool 3 by myself. I love going to the movies alone. I particularly love going to see movies when I'm the only person in the room watching the movie. That is what got Pee Wee Herman in trouble. But going to see so here's the thing. You want to get personal? You want to get on a personal level with old Adrian? Going to see movies alone is the only thing that I refuse to do alone. I am a loner, true and true, through and through. I go eat by myself. I go get coffee by myself. I will do everything by myself. Supermarket by myself. Shopping for shoes by myself. Shopping for clothes, doesn't matter. The only thing I do in life is alone. Everything else is tertiary. I have such a stigma on seeing a movie by myself. That is the one thing I refuse to do alone. I think, and mind you, I do everything alone. Seeing it I'm not saying you are, Leo. I'm not saying you are sad. But seeing a movie by myself might be the point that makes me sad for myself. That might be too far for me. Mandy Boy says, uploaded this novel on my Kindle already. Well, then I can't help you. I have tried. Leo says, I would have assumed you were a professor or doctor of literature at the local university and community colleges. That was super popular and hella loved by all your students, some a little too much. Not at all. No one loves me. I have no one, especially no students. I am not a professor. I have had an offer to teach at the college level. So one of the things about being a professor, teaching at the college level, not a lot of jobs. A lot of jobs that you're going to find are part-time. And right now, I am too busy. I do not have the time to do that. As far as would I ever want to be, pardon me, a professor full-time? No, I don't think so. There is a quote from Eric Weinstein where he says there are two types of people in the world of academe. In the world of academe, there are, what did he say? There's, I can't remember. He says that there are basically professor types. And then there are the wild men in the woods. When you're talking about the world of ideas, there are the professor types and the wild men in the woods. Now, the perks of being a professor type are that you have a job, you have respect, you have respectability, you have the benefits. But all intellectual work is heresy. All intellectual work is heresy of some form or another. Otherwise, you're not creating anything new. When Einstein said that gravity is working in this way, it was a heresy according to how gravity was supposed at the time to work. I believe at the time, gravity was supposed to be transferred by particles. I believe. I might be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that part. But Einstein was working in a patent office in his miracle year of 1905, where he published Relativity, the paper on Brownian motion. He published, I believe it was 5 papers in the year of 1905. It was his Annus Mirabilis, miracle year. In that miracle year, he was allowed to say massive heresies because he was not within the structure of academe. Like Eric Weinstein said, there are two types of people. There are in the world of ideas, in the world of academe. There are in the world of intelligence. There are people who are in the system. There are people who are outside the system. There are the professors and the wild men in the woods. Professors are allowed to create their legacy, small heresies at a time. Little heresies at a time. They are able to say little things which are going against the norm. They are able to suggest small ideas which might not make sense at the time, but they could turn out to be correct. That is how you make your name for yourself in the structure, in academe, in the ivory walls. Small heresies at a time are how you make your legacy when you are part of the apparatus. But those wild men in the woods, Einstein, who was not a professor at the time that his miracle year where his 5 papers were published, Einstein was able to come forward with huge heresies. The wild men in the woods, Eric Weinstein tells us, can come through with huge heresies which can upend the entire establishment. I do not want to be in the ivory walls. I do not want to be part of the establishment. Being the crazy guy who talks about poems every day on YouTube, probably that's being a wild man in the woods. Maybe I have other heresies up my sleeves. Part of the idea of being part of the establishment is that respect. Respect does not mean what once it did. Respect used to be earned. And you can say someone who's a professor has earned that type of respect. Guys, let me tell you, I've taken those classes. I've been through those lectures. There is nothing earned there. I have seen the favoritism that happens at the college level. In some measure, I've been part of that favoritism. Now, the favoritism that I was part of was that when I was graduated, 2 of my professors offered me a manual labor job. Not quite the same thing as we'll publish anything you write, but still some form of favoritism there. Leo says, this is just delusion you drew up in your log cabin out in the woods, and it's winter and you're freezing to death. Maybe being the wild man in the woods, being the madman in the cabin is what appeals to me. Maybe you're not real. Maybe you're a delusion. Maybe I am making up this entire internet thing. In fact, it makes more sense that this is imaginary than not. I am a Luddite. How is it that I am streaming on the line right now? Will is here. Will says, I can only stay briefly, so we'll have to watch this in its entirety later at a later time, but a live with focus on Bukowski is excellent to see. Thank you for stopping in, Will. There was some focus on Bukowski earlier in the stream. If you have anything you want to see about Bukowski from me, I will consider making videos for you by request. So let me know. Will, you are here for Bukowski. Let me know your thoughts on what you would like to see. What was it talking about? Wild men in the woods? Is that what I was talking about? Also, by the way, guys, you don't get to teach class without wearing pants. And I have to tell you something. So there is that part of this as well. What are we doing here? We are an hour and 45 minutes in to a live stream about Bukowski that has gone all sorts of places. This tells me 12 individuals here. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Leo says, I'm privileged and we are privileged to have you here exclusively to talk about literature. I am here exclusively to talk about literature. I am here to talk about books, poetry, short stories, but now, nearly 2 hours at church, I'm not here to talk about church. I don't know much about church. If there are, do you mean you don't have to wear pants in church? Maybe I'll go. What was I talking about here? Oh, yeah. I can't remember. Macbeth says, you mentioned focusing on quality over quantity after Poetry Month. Does that mean video editing quality, as you've mentioned, you've struggled with, or analysis quality? I think probably both. As I sort of alluded to earlier, I am struggling when I read these poems and short stories, etc., in quick succession like this to come up with things worth talking about that I maybe didn't cover yesterday or the day before, etc. Doing all of the Sylvia Plath has been a little bit difficult. She's very good about not writing about the same things, but sometimes I feel too tempted to reference previous discussions on Sylvia Plath. So, um, society should realize. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. I take it that is a Bukowski poem, Will. If you've already done so, if so, I shall look it up. Let me know if that is a poem. I don't. The title there does not ring true to me. So I don't know if it's in any of the collections that I have. If I can find it online, I will do a. Let me write it down so I don't. Society should realize. But I will. I've run out in that pen. I will attempt to find that. But back to the question about quality over quantity. Hopefully, so one of the things that I have learned, what I am trying to accomplish here, I feel that Bukowski at times hamstrings himself in the same way Eminem does with need compulsion to be lewd. If that makes it does make sense. It does make sense for sure. Will it does make sense for sure. The area of pause from Bukowski is my recent. I think I have a video on the area of pause. If so, for sure, leave me notes because I am getting ready to come up on National Poetry Month again, and I am going to make 2 days a week, I think, for Bukowski. So let me know titles that you want to see in for National Poetry Month. But the back to the question of quality over quantity, I am struggling with both right now. This is one of the reasons why the big series that I want to get to, the Darkest series, the Great Gatsby series, I'm struggling with them because making videos every day, man, it's hard. And I'm coming up on a year straight. At the end of this month, it'll be a year straight. At the end of National Poetry Month, it'll be 396 days straight. And then I'm going to do 4 days after that, just so I can say I got to 400. Leo said, "I thought the repetitiveness made it feel like it was supposed to cement the idea in. I messed up there. Where am I at? I thought the repetitiveness made it feel like it was supposed to cement the idea in the overarching discussion. I don't care about the quality or quality beyond what you're doing now. I just don't want you to be miserable during the videos if you're putting out quantity." Do I seem miserable in the videos? I hope not. I hope not. I'd like to see you comment on Emily Dickinson's "A Faded Boy in Sallow Clothes." For sure, I will. I don't know if I've ever read that one. So thank you for that, Mandy Boy. I have these. Any other American poets? Because it's National Poetry Month. That's one thing that I have failed to do correctly in the past. It's National Poetry Month, and I've been making it international. So for National Poetry Month, I think I'm only going to do American poets. I would hope you aren't burning yourself. A little bit, I'm burning myself out, Leo. A little bit. But what I'm trying to do in this stage of creation for this channel is I am trying to put a light sheathing over the world of literature. I am attempting at this point to cover a lot of stuff a little bit. After this, I really want to build upwards. So the Darkest series is my opening attempt to try to build upwards with this stuff, make larger arguments and conversations than or more specific arguments and conversations than the light speaking about the entire piece. So that is what I am attempting to do there. The only tell is you not being able to get through the stuff you put out in the TV. Yeah, I'm falling apart terribly, Macbeth, in the world of what I'm promising versus what I am delivering. I had hoped to be through so much more Ernest Hemingway right now than I am. I had hoped to get through so much more of The Great Gatsby, but it's difficult to really put these things through that much work, that much processing. Will says, and to apologize directly if a video I did in response to one of yours seemed unduly combative, but there is very little discussion on poetry as a subject on BookTube, with it being stilted. Academic type stuff, which is educational and soulless. Anything you want to, any combativeness that you want to have with me, I do not take exception to. I will not find particularly insulting, I don't think. So by all means, take whatever tone you want when you are doing your videos. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I've been through a lot of stuff in life. Response to a poetry video isn't gonna ruin me. I promise. You are appreciated in every video. You better not be talking to me. There's no appreciation for me. I'll have none of it. It's appreciated that we need people like you to do good things in the world, and with each of your videos enriches many people greatly, and many people greatly. So your purpose is great, Adrian. I appreciate you, Leo. I'm trying very hard to. Literature is, I think, lost, and I think I think that it's going to take a lot of work to get it back. So hopefully this channel contributes to that in some way. Will says, I would suggest your work is hard enough. I would suggest your work is hard enough and diligent, undoubtedly, but you should drop the schedule and post freely. I'm actually going to do slightly different than that, Will. Once National Poetry Month is concluded, I am going to hit 4 consecutive days of uploads, which will 4 consecutive uploads, which will put me at 400 days consecutive of uploads. After that, I'm probably going to take a month to do exactly what it is that you're talking about, post freely. But the month after that, what I'm hoping to do is 3 videos per week. Mondays will be poetry. Wednesdays will be short stories. Fridays will be novels. And the special videos will be, I don't want to say random, but they will be, I will have enough distance from the creative part of it. Hey, PF, I will have enough distance from the creative part of things to be able to get ahead of schedule. Once I'm ahead of schedule, I can schedule. I can do a video pretty easily that will tell you what will be on the channel and when. Right now, I'm bootstrapping it, guys. I am by the seat of my pants, and it's kind of where the idea of a live stream on Fridays came from, is that I don't have to, I get up and go. I don't have to find a piece, digest a piece, read it again, take the notes, make the video, edit the video, upload the video. It can be one of these things where we can do this. And actually, I'm very bad at getting back to comments. So this is one way that I feel we can do things, and I can be a little more interactive. Mandy Boy says, Bukowski's The Killer Smiles. Also, this play suggestion, Blackbird, David Harrower. Blackbird is a play. The Killer Smiles. If you if you have suggestions for American poets or poems to read during National Poetry Month, let me know. National Poetry Month will be 30 poetry discussions in 30 days. I will attempt to be doing a Carrie read along as well during the time, and maybe getting some of the Great Gatsby worked in as well. Leo says, I am also against AI and such, like an old person. I'm not against AI, I don't think. It's interesting. I don't think I'm against AI. I think that I am in favor of tools. I think AI can be a very useful tool. Will says, it's now bedtime for my kids, so I have to drop off, but we'll return over the weekend to catch up. See you, Will. It was good having you here. Love the form. Will also says, love the format and agree it allows for direct discussion more effectively. I appreciate you being here, Will. Good luck getting the kiddos to bed. Leo says, I am alone now, going to go watch the movie Past Lives, but I want to stay. But I know you have 3 more poems to go. Oh no, I read 5 poems. Don't rush though. I'll watch the rest of the playback. I read 5 poems. So there's possibly no more poems to come. We are approaching 2 hours in now, so I will probably not be on for terribly much longer. But if there are any questions to get to, anybody has comments, let me know, and we will maybe wrap things up shortly. Don't hold back. That seemed really quick. So, yeah. So Bukowski reads quick, and 2 of the poems were on kissing pages. So it made it look as if there was only 1 poem in that during that reading, but there were 5 there. Yeah. I need something to talk about for at least 4 more minutes, guys. Somebody jump in and give me something to go off on. Somebody say something about Harry Potter that'll get me angry or something. Leo says, hope you have a good day. Take your time leaving. I'll take my time. By God. Let's see. Bukowski, one of my favorite poets. Bukowski, someone that provides an entry to poetry for people who would not necessarily otherwise be poetry lovers, otherwise be readers in general. Macbeth says, I'm thinking of going through my TBR list in chronological order of publish date. Thoughts? I'm not sure that. Let me know, what is your TBR? Give me some titles from your TBR, and we'll see if that would be the most effective way to go through them. Azazel says, Harry Potter is not so bad. Definitely on par with Stephen King's books. Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll grant that. Macbeth says, I'm hoping to see growth of literature from 800 to 2020. I'm hoping to see growth of literature from 800 because BC to 2020. Growth of literature. What does that mean? You were hoping to read those. You're hoping to read more books from that era, more stories from that era. Leo says, I caught your chat the other day and you were talking about sinners. And I was like, his ear piercing would be a sin. Yeah. I don't have it in right now, but I'm a sinner. I'm pro sin. What can I say? Mandy Boy says, envy Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. When do you plan to check out Dostoevsky? I am going to do Notes from is it The Underground or Notes from Underground? I thought it was just Notes from Underground. I don't know where my copy is. I am planning to do that book. It is probably going to be 2025, late 2024. I apologize that things work on such a slow glacial level here. But I want to get through. I want to do things. I try to do things right. I don't know what right means, but I try to do things semi-thoroughly. Macbeth says, starting with the Epic of Gilgamesh. I have the Epic of Gilgamesh. I just got it. It is working into a plan that I have. Odyssey and the Iliad, then finishing with White Noise, Infinite Jest, etc. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. You want to read everything. Is that what you're saying? Your TBR is everything? And you're thinking of beginning at the oldest ones? I would not suggest that. I would not suggest that at all. I don't know that I would suggest Infinite Jest either. I'm not a big fan of David Foster Wallace. Heresy, I know, for someone in my position, for someone who went to school when I went to school, etc. But Leo said, I don't believe in sin or any such thing. I'll take them. Macbeth says, everything that I deem worth reading, LOL. Big gatekeeper here. I don't know the best advice for that situation then. That is an interesting conundrum. Here's what I will suggest. The fact that you were asking for a way to go about tackling that TBR the greatest of everything, the greatest hits, books, the greatest hits. Approximately 300 books on the list. Okay. Name some of them then, because what I'm getting around to, Macbeth, is that the fact that you were asking for an entry point to those books, the greatest hits, suggests to me that maybe you're not all that interested in the mission. Suggests to me that maybe you're not all that interested in what it is that you are setting out to do. Because if maybe not, maybe that's the wrong approach. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. I don't think that chronologically would be the greatest approach to a reading list, because if you approach it that way and you genuinely approach it that way, it's going to get very old very fast. Pun not intended. If you approach it that way from the oldest stuff, I don't know what your education history is like, Macbeth. If you had any classes that were focused on eras, God, by the time you get to the end of the class, you don't ever want to read anything from that era again. So I would suggest that the process of going about these things in chronological order would likely kill it for you, would likely make you hate the mission sooner than not. Because there's going to be one in there you don't like, right? When you are approaching a TBR from what sounds good right now, what you're able to do is take it at face level, take it at face value. What you're able to do is the moment you finish the Epic of Gilgamesh, maybe you hate it. Maybe you hate the stilted thing that comes with not only translation, but also translation over time. You can say, look, all I want to do at the end of this is read Fight Club. Something that feels very present, very real, very now. You're going to want to do that. And I think that ordering them chronologically will kill it for you. That's what I am afraid of, Macbeth. Mandy Boy says, have you read Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove? Not only have I not read it, I haven't heard of it. Not only have I not heard of it, I haven't heard of Larry McMurtry. So that is a new one to me. Anyway, guys, okay, Macbeth says, pardon me, I've read about 40 from the list over the last few years by just picking whatever stood out to me, and I've liked them for the most part. I would suggest sticking to it like that. What I've been talking for too long. What this says to me, what this suggests to me that you are now looking for a way to tackle that TBR is that maybe you need to, Macbeth says, now it is hard to pick them, so this should kill the decision fatigue. What I would suggest is, if now it's difficult, maybe you are burnt out a little bit, I would suggest finding something new to put on that list. Mandy Boy says, I threw Infinite Jest into the DNF section in my library. I can't get an intellectual boner for that writing style. I feel bad, but I wish to give Wallace another chance in the future. I would suggest starting with his short stories, Mandy. Go. I don't know if you've read any of his short stories. Go to his short stories, and because from my experience with David Foster Wallace, all of his writing is the same. So if it's difficult for you to get into Infinite Jest because of the writing style, it's going to be difficult to get into any of it. It is now hard to pick them, so this will kill the decision fatigue. Give me 10 titles, Macbeth, and I will tell you the one to read. I will tell you the definitive direction to go from this. Mandy Boy says, dude, you'd love Lonesome Dove. Believe me, I'll write it down. I'll write it down. What was the name of it? Larry McMurdy? Is this a real person? That sounds like a fake name. Leo says, thanks for the stream. See you next time. You're doing a great job. I appreciate you, Leo. Thank you for being here. Mandy Boy says, merci beaucoup for the stream. Man, you are merci beaucoup. Bitte. Bitte schön. Leo says, I don't think he should go. I don't think he could go back enough. Hello. You talking about my exaggerated hatred for David Foster Wallace? Mandy Boy says, Stephen King loves the book, man. Stephen King loves what book? Oh, McMurdy. Okay, I got you. I'll look into it. I don't want to find more writers, but I'll look into it. So one of the things that sucks about running a channel like this, I really do. You might not believe me. I really do have the mission of revolutionizing literature and revolutionizing the way that literature is talked about online, and revolutionizing the way that literature is talked about on YouTube. It has taken away really my ability to find new writers. It has taken away so there's so much stuff that I really do feel it is my mission to cover on this channel that it is difficult to set aside time to read for myself and not feel like I have to get content out of it, but also B, not be reading stuff that I think has to appear on the channel. So there's very little risk taking that takes place here. Thank you, Leo. I hope they believe me. They'd better believe me. Yeah. So PF says, how are your goals for your own writing for this year? Not good. Not a whole lot of writing took place in the month of February. January was pretty good. What about you, PF? Are you writing as you should? January was pretty good. So I do a lot of work online. I'm a lot of places. And so it's not just what you see here. There's my personal channel that I'm also running. I'm not running it very well. Then I've got my full-time job. Then I've got trying to get in shape. I'm trying to lose weight so I can do that 50 Shades of Grey series in a leather harness. But man, there's so much of life, right? And there's a whole lot of it I'm not doing very well. But I am fading around the edges. Mandy Boy says, I heard you talk about your failed attempt at a story like Lolita. Did you try your hands at it again? My story like Lolita. I don't remember what that one would be. So, okay, maybe I do. No, I don't. Okay, maybe I do. That one, so like Lolita is maybe a little bit of a stretch for what I had really intended with that one. I have not gone back to it. It was, I feel like the story that I was writing with that one was maybe too predictable. What if I'm thinking of the right one, I think it might have been too predictable. So I have to reformulate what I was doing there. Leo says your shape is cuddly shaped. Leo, I'm not that cuddly shaped yet. I'm probably on the way to being that cuddly shaped, but I'm not that cuddly shaped yet. Not quite. Any final thoughts, questions? I am probably going to get off here momentarily. It was good spending time with you. I'm glad that you were here to listen to poetry. Hopefully, there is more poetry in the future. And I appreciate you. That play, Blackbird David Harroway, should help there. With me being cuddly? With my weight? Should help where? I apologize. I've lost myself. PF says, thanks for everything. We are waiting for the final reviews of both Fairy Tale and Holly. Yeah, I know. I know. I know, PF. I'm sorry. No, we aren't. So the problem I'm running into with Holly. Thank you, Mandy Boy, for being here. The problem I'm running to with Holly. Yes, Dell. Yes, Dell. More Holly content. Everyone it's riveting. The problem I'm running into with the penultimate read-along episode of Holly is that penultimate chapter, or that penultimate pair of chapters, was like 60 pages. So I have so many notes from them that I don't know whether I need to start cutting notes or sit down and spend an hour talking about the chapter. So I know I'm just being lazy. I'm just making excuses, but it is a conundrum for sure. And the problem I'm having for the reviews is I want to make higher effort reviews. And, right, I mean, doing these videos every day, it's difficult for me to find the time. I know. I'm being lazy, but that is what it is. And I apologize, PF. I apologize that I have not finished those things when I said that I would. That is probably all the time I have for the day. I am going to 30 seconds here. If there's no other comments to address, I will go ahead and sign off for the day. The Friday live streams are something that I think I'm going to start doing. I'm not sure they will all be 2+ hours. They will be. So one of the things I think I'm going to do in the future is a celebration of public domain. So reading maybe longer works that are public domain as they come out, as they become public domain. PF says Darkest Moments series were great. I appreciate that, PF. That is so far my magnum opus, I think, on the channel. The Darkest series videos are something that I really enjoy creating. They're something that I think actually contribute to the discussion of literature. My video for As I Lay Dying, the darkest detail is, I believe, the best video that I have ever made on YouTube. So hopefully I will get back to that series and doing work in that department. Opening paragraph series is a big winner as well. You like the opening paragraph series? I'll consider doing more. Is there anything in particular about that series that you like? Because once I got into it, really, I was afraid that maybe those were not very useful videos. Any feedback I could get on that would be appreciated. So, one of the things that is difficult about running a channel like this and doing it with I know it sounds self-important, right? But doing it with a sense of mission is that, guys, nobody likes poetry. And the way YouTube works, I know the big scary YouTube algorithm, etc. When no one clicks on your video, YouTube suggests the next one to a whole lot fewer people. So doing all of the poetry that I've done is essentially channel suicide. But I think it's important to do. I think that these poems are important to cover. It's impressive to, Macbeth says, it's impressive to see the author set up an entire novel with a few sentences. I can also watch it without spoiling the novel and get a feel for if I am interested in it or not. I will have to keep in mind not to put spoilers in the opening paragraph series. But things like the opening paragraph series, things like the Darkest Moments series, It's always interesting to see what goes over, uh, and it's difficult for me to get a read on that when I am uploading so many poetry videos that just sort of tank the channel as far as what is suggested to who and when. Right, the big. This is probably too much inside baseball. Probably no one cares about this, and I apologize if you don't. Doing so the poetry videos, the short story videos, the novel review videos, that's all basically search-based content. You can go back and I believe the Shining, the opening chapter of The Shining, I believe has 20,000 plus views by now. When that video came out, I believe the first day it had something like 40 views. That is a strategy for content-based content. It's not a strategy for series like The Darkest. The Darkest Detail of, As I Lay Dying, The Darkest Detail is not search-based content. People have to see that immediately to watch it because it will be buried on YouTube otherwise. So it's so difficult to, you shouldn't discount, it's so difficult to sort of balance things. You shouldn't discount the fact that some of us also don't care about the literature and are just here because you're pretty. Well, I mean, there's always that, Leo. I'm very pretty. Macbeth says, I found your channel searching for The Sun Also Rises. The Sun Also Rises review to understand why the novel stuck in my head after reading it when I didn't initially find it amazing. Been here since. I appreciate you. That's years, Macbeth. Dell says, I got into this channel by searching for a specific book review. Exactly. So not doing book reviews for a long time like I haven't done is also troublesome for the channel, but there's so much literature to cover, guys. There's so much I want to cover, so much I want to do. If I had $1 million, if I had $1 million, bare naked ladies, nobody, anybody? No, that's fine. Just me. I'd buy you a green dress, but not a real green dress. That's cruel. If I had $1 million and I was doing this every day, I'd be making a whole lot more progress. But it is what it is. That is all the time I think I'm going to have for today. I've got some other stuff I got to do before heading to bed. Work overnights. It's 2 p.m. So I appreciate you guys being here. If you like or appreciate what I do on the channel, hitting the like button really does help me out. It tells YouTube to share this video with other people, other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button in order to stick around for more content. Have a great rest of your day. Be safe always. Thank you, Leo. You as well. And to everyone who is here, I appreciate you.